conversations. So we'll have a good
Love it.
time. We'll hop in.
Okay.
So again,
Very
it's
cool.
great to meet you, Bill. Thank you for taking a minute out of
Same
the
here.
show today.
Hopefully I can get out to Kansas City sometime and we can, go and get some barbecue.
Oh yeah, we have to. It's a must. Absolutely a must. So
All right. So,
let's begin with this. 6 years
hmm,
ago, we look at
okay.
the calendar in March now, and the pandemic was starting, changing our world, changing our lives. How did you
Right.
get through that era, and how has it changed the way that you do things today?
Wow. What a great question. And you have no idea why, but it is a great question. So the pandemic uh, really changed my life completely. It's kind of like I have a saying that I use with my clients and that I use with my colleagues as well. And it's a new saying for me to use, but it doesn't happen to you, it happens for you.
Yeah.
And it's really become true for me over these last few years. But the reason why I said great question is because my job went bye-bye um, after the pandemic, or actually just prior to the pandemic. They kind of saw the writing on the wall, and I had been an executive at a major company, had been there for 28 years, and they kind of saw things coming down the pike with the pandemic and everything else, and said we better lighten our load. And unfortunately, I was part of that. Uh, and I've been working since I was 13 years old. So that was a train wreck for me. Men specifically define themselves by their livelihood, right? And I had never lost a job. I was very proud of that. This technically wasn't, getting fired, but it didn't feel any different.
Yeah.
I had never been laid off, riffed, or anything like that. This was technically a riff because of the pandemic, and I it did not feel good. And I kind of shut down for a little bit. And I was like, I've got to kind of figure out what I'm going to do from here. And it's interesting because the universe was kind of telling me, dude, you're doing good. That's all nice and good what you do, but it's not your love. It's not your passion. So let's look for something else.
Yeah.
And I'm a child of traumatic childhood. And, or I should say more accurately now, I'm an adult of a traumatic childhood. Maybe somewhat of a Freudian slip there, or Jungian slip.
Yeah.
But so I started to look at how that story was my essence, right? And I started to look for ways to hack that because I didn't want that. And it led me into psychology, which led me into the hack that I work with now, hypnosis. And I went through a number of hypnosis sessions, and my dear friend who took me through said, "Look, you are really really talented at being empathetic for people who've gone through these kinds of things. Because of what you have gone through, you are really good at helping other people suffer through and get through. There's another nice saying that I like: when you're going through hell, don't stop."
Yeah.
And um, so she really convinced me. She's like, you really need to get certified. You would be really good at this. I went out to the West Coast. I did attend classes. And interestingly enough, and by the grace of God, every one of my colleagues in the class wanted me to do the hypnotism with them. And I worked with a number of them after I got certified to help them. One of them had, and she's given me permission to share this story. She was the wife of a narcissistic abuser. So he abused her not just physically but also mentally, and it really screwed her up. And we worked together and got her through it. And now she's married to this new guy, and she's traveling the country, and it's wonderful. So rather long-winded answer to how did that affect me, but it kind of lays the foundation for some other stuff down the road here that I think we might get into. So
Absolutely no. I'm glad you did that because that'll kind of set the dominoes up to knock down. So let me ask you this. If you were to be
Mm,
put in front of a bunch of grade school kids, 12, 13-year-olds, it's career day,
mm.
and you needed to explain your day job, what you do for a living now as a hypnotist, how do you explain that to them?
Wow. Jesus, Joe, that's a great question. And the reason it's a great question is because uh, I deal with the adult trauma children. In other words, we are all adults, but there are many trauma survivors who are stuck as little children inside. Uh, Try to explain that to a 13-year-old. They don't understand what trauma really is because, from a psychological perspective, a child does not define it as such. In fact, children that are abused, and this is psychological fact, if they're in an abusive home, they immediately make themselves the ones that are broken. It's not the abuser, it's themselves. And this is actually it's a psychological safety net, because if the child believes that they are, or excuse me, that their caretakers are the ones that are broken, then the brain says there's no hope, and they wither away, and that's it.
Yeah.
It's quite traumatic. So how would I? Gosh, I would say that I help adults get through hard times from when they were your age.
So when you were a kid, obviously you went through trauma, as you mentioned,
Mhm.
but was there a dream you had? Was there a career? Was there something that you wanted to do?
Yeah. So that again, dude, you're killing it with the questions. This is awesome.
Thank you.
Um, quick quick history line. Not all the stuff, but I was abandoned in the hospital at 3 days old. In New York State. It was actually New York City. At that time, you had to become a ward of the state for 5 years in case the parent who had abandoned you decided, well, I was just kidding, I'll come and take them back,
Yeah.
which I don't quite understand that thinking, but okay. Um, as I went through all the different issues, um, and I got older, I knew I wanted to do something to help people. I've had that urge since I was little. And my first thought was that I wanted to become a heart surgeon. And that was because when I was in school in second grade, they showed us a video of heart surgery. And they showed us that they took a small piece of tissue, heart tissue, they put it on a white table, and you could see the tissue beating. And I was fascinated.
Wow.
I'm like, and I was also one of these kids that takes everything apart. Um, One of the worst, yeah, I'll call it what it was. One of the worst beatings I ever got was because I took, this is back when we had rotary phones, and there was only one rotary phone in the house, and I took that sucker completely apart. I did put it back together, and it did work. So I've always had that. Let's take the stuff apart and see how it works, and then put it back together.
Yeah.
Um, so you know, uh, the heart surgeon thing was great, but as certain abuses continued to happen, that kind of went away. And so I still always had that protective instinct in me, though. I had friends that would come to me. I had people I didn't even know at parties, and they would start going, "I don't know why I'm telling you this, but and I would try to help without any training at the time.
Yeah.
So yeah,
So you were destined. So
apparently,
yeah. So who's been the inspirational force, the heroic force in your life that's allowed you to find success, to find your footing in life, to heal, to go through all of these and come through the fire at this point in your life?
yeah, that's another great question, and here's because I've asked myself this question, and here's the strange piece about it. I cannot point to one single individual. Um, because of the trauma and the abuse that I suffered through my teen years and into my young adulthood, I was very self destructive. And to this day, I still marvel at the fact that someone was guarding me. Um, I used to ride on top of cars. This is absolute fact. A friend of mine just asked me, "Do you have video of that?" But I used to ride on top of cars doing 65 miles an hour through S curves.
Wow.
Uh, this was the kind of mindset I had. Like, I don't care. I just don't care. Great. If I check out, great. And yet, and I had been in a number of physical altercations and didn't care. Got really good at it as a result. But it was I without sounding, over the top. I think I was being protected.
Yeah.
I was being protected, and I really, my adoptive father was a World War II vet. He had been through massive trauma in the war, and as a result, he would snap and start yelling in German and the whole 9 yards. In fact, when I was 10 years old, he picked me up, threw me down a flight of stairs. I wound up in the hospital for a week.
Wow.
Now, you would think that's insane. How could you, recover from that? But he had an amazing heart. And I think that's why he had such trauma from the war. He wouldn't talk about it with anyone else. And lucky me, when I came back out of the hospital, I think he was trying to make amends. And so then he would start to talk to me about it. And he told me things that there's no child at 10 years old that should hear. But it began to give me an understanding, even at that young age, of what trauma does to people. And he had a really good heart. I always say, there's another funny little saying, and I don't always say this, but I find it to be true. I don't trust people who don't like animals, but I trust animals who don't like certain people. My father had a grace about him with animals. There were animals that would not go near anyone, and my father could charm them right to him.
Yeah.
We had a cat. Her name was Cutie Pie. Couldn't, God forgive me, couldn't stand this cat because she was nasty. She was so nasty. She'd rip you to shreds. She was like a baby with my father.
Wow.
And he, with all the animals, the birds would come down to him. It's crazy. And so this is a long way around to, I believe he instilled some of that in me,
Yeah.
that nurturing and that help. He did always help. Despite the trauma, if he saw somebody hurting on the street, he would help. If he there was an issue. My father was a chemical worker. There was an issue in the place, and he helped them. My father was the one who taught me not to be racist, which was awesome at the time. I mean, it was during the riots, and Newark was burning and everything else. And my father would have people of every race and nationality come into our house. The point where I remember our neighbor coming over and saying something to my father, and my father used a couple spicy words and said, "When you pay my mortgage, you can tell me what to do, and until then, you can go some more spicy words."
Yeah.
And I was so proud of him for that.
Yeah.
And so I guess, long story short, be careful when Italian says long story short. I would have to say that, um, other than being guarded by God or the universe or source or whatever you believe, um, I'd have to say my father really did influence me too.
On this journey of getting over trauma,
Mm-hmm.
you've decided to help others go through that, to get through their trauma.
Yeah.
And I'm curious, what is it? What is that strength every day for you to get up and to do that? Because obviously, if you're doing that, if you're trying to help people, it's going to reignite. It's like writing a biography. You're going to reignite these ghosts that you hope you put to bed and you don't ever have to think about again. So, how do you take this level of what you've been through in your life and transform it into a way that you're trying to help others? Where do you get that strength and that will every day to do that?
God bless you. That's a great question. And the truth of the matter is that it is not easy.
Yeah.
There have been not a few times where I've worked with clients who their trauma journey is very similar to mine,
Yeah.
and it's painful. And it's one thing about hypnosis. People say, "Oh, well, a hypnotist is going to make you do this and that," and that's all crap. The reality of it is that in hypnosis, the hypnotist is going with you through this. And to be really successful, you have to steel yourself against that. But when the trauma is so close to your own, it can be a challenge.
Yeah.
And it's exhausting. I used to do like 5 clients a day. I had to stop that. I have to drop down to 3 clients a day, and even sometimes that's too much, depending on how the sessions go. Because it is draining. You're absolutely correct. I believe in order to do this well, you should be very empathetic. I am, and it there are times where it's painful. I always video if we do it on Zoom, because I have clients in Maine and clients in California and Oregon and whatever. If we do it on Zoom, it's recorded. There are times where you can see that I am visibly getting upset, but I have to fight through that
Yeah.
because I'm there for them. Me be damned, I'm there for them. And I've had in person, at my office where it's tough. It's definitely tough, but you have to fight through. You're there. What I said earlier about being a protector, I kind of take that really seriously. And as a protector, sometimes you got to take a bullet
Yeah.
in order to make sure that they survive. So I guess, what do I do for that? Like I say, I reduce the client load. And then I have to do some meditation, some self hypnosis, some um, really just calm down time.
You're like a mental health Secret Service agent.
Exactly. That's so well put. That's really well put.
So,
I'm going to use that.
yeah, you should 100%.
I'm definitely using that.
So I'm
I'm gonna,
curious.
I'm gonna, and I will credit you, but I am definitely using that.
That's what came through immediately. So I'm curious, being so close to so many things with what you've lived through, like that era of invincibility that you were on top of cars and all of that. There's a very because I tend to be a daredevil myself. I understand that bone. But, I've talked to a lot of people that have had near death experiences and they talk about or they flatlined and they left and came back. There's this warmth and this ease of things. Do you think there was a part of you that felt as though, and even now with everything that you've healed and gone through, that there's a part of you that there's going to be this level of warmth and there's going to be this level of release when we leave this plane? How do you conceptualize that?
So again, a good, interesting question, and the reason behind that being a good, interesting question is because I have done past life regression hypnosis with some of my colleagues. My colleague who had the abusive husband, she loved her results so much, and she said, "Do you think we can do past life regression?" And I said, you know, I know the methodology, but I've never done it. And I really didn't have any drawn issue to it. And I said, but I'm willing to try. And we did it. We were not only successful, but she was afraid of water. And we didn't really know why, and didn't really put a whole lot of stock in it. The only reason I knew that was because we were walking by the bay where we had gone through training. And she was like, "Yeah, that's close enough." I'm like, "Don't you know how to swim?" And she's like, "I don't like the water." I'm like, "Okay." So we did this past life regression. Turns out, and for her job, besides hypnotist, clinical hypnotist. She is also an herbalist. Well, it turns out in this past life regression we did, she was labeled a witch,
Wow.
and they drowned her.
Yeah.
And so, in answer to that question, I'm not sure, because I've done past life regression with other people. And also, I don't know if you're familiar with a woman named Dolores Cannon, but she's a very famous hypnotist who did a
Yeah.
lot of past life regression.
Yeah.
Probably, I believe, 5,000 different past life regressions before she passed away. And what she says is that we are all part of Source. I'm not sure how I feel about that, but it makes sense. I mean, I was raised Catholic. I believe in God. So, you know, you want to call God Source, fine, works for me. But that as souls, before we ever come to this plane of existence, we are in this place that is peaceful and calm, and we're coming here to learn. We are not spiritual beings having, excuse me, we're not human beings having a spiritual experience. We're spiritual beings having a human experience. And for the very reason to learn. So before we ever come here, we go, okay, this is what's going to happen. These are the people I'm going to have in my life. This is what's going to happen to me. And the reason is because I need to learn this, and this. Um, so I kind of I like that because I like the self-determination part of that.
Yep.
Um, I was raised Catholic, so there is a lot of, no, when you pass on, Jesus is your advocate. He advocates for you, and then you go through the pearly gates and everything's warm and fuzzy and you see all these colors. And if a lot of past life, or not past life, but sudden death experiences, they do describe, I saw my family, I saw my relatives, and then I was in this beautiful place, and we don't have any of the colors that were there. They were unbelievable, and I was so at peace, and I didn't want to come back, but they told me I wasn't ready, and I had to go back. And there's thousands of documented cases of that as well. So somewhere in my mind, I kind of merged the two
Yeah.
in that and we come here to learn.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, no, no. I was just going to say, I'm curious at the essence, at the core of all of this, of everything that you've done, evolved to, overcome, succeeded in. What do you, everyone has a perception of you, family, friends, clients, everyone that knows you, but you run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are at this moment?
Uh, yeah. So without sounding braggadocious, at this point in my life, I think I am finally honed to the point of accomplishing why I'm here.
Yeah.
Um, I am helping people overcome pain that they otherwise wouldn't overcome. Uh, I'm again not being braggadocious, but I'm have been seen as a leader, and I don't take that lightly. When you lead people, you're responsible to them. Uh, I have a new venture that I am launching to bring education to the masses that you would normally get only if you were in a corporate situation. I am not trying to pitch anything. I'm just saying that this is all falling in place so ridiculously easily. It's kind of like the universe is saying, "Yeah, this is what I was trying to tell you to do all along."
Yeah.
Um, it's something called the power of will, and it's not willpower, and it's not a play on my name either. It's wisdom, insight, leadership, and legacy. And basically, what it is where professional speakers come and donate their time that people who only went to a corporate event would normally get to see. And 20 minutes a piece, because interestingly enough, I used to be an adult educator, and back when I taught, the average adult attention span was 45 minutes, and then you had to do something else. Due to digitization, the average adult attention span is somewhere between 8 and 10 minutes.
Yeah.
So the brainchild is that these speakers will have 18 minutes to 20 minutes to speak and get their point across and get the story across and get the knowledge across. And so, and it's all falling into place so incredibly easily that I think I'm finally where I'm supposed to be. I think that all of this before, as much years ago when I was younger, I was so pissed. You have no idea. I was so pissed that all this happened. And I'm like, and I would see other people and I'm like, wait a minute, why couldn't I have had this silver spoon in my mouth? Why do they think the world is perfect? They have no clue that the world is not perfect. What's the matter with them?
Yeah.
And I realize now all of this was, again, this goes back to what I said earlier. This didn't happen to me.
Yep.
It happened for me.
Uh-huh. I say the same thing to my stepdaughter, my son, young people. I'm always regurgitating that. So, Bill, I think we've laid a good a good framework, a foundation here. If anybody wants to reach out, they want to hire you, they have questions, any of the good business, how do they do that?
Well, there's two websites. One is renewedlifehypnosis.com. That is for any kind of hypnosis that you would need to do or would want to do. Let me be clear on that too. Before you choose to go that route, it is critically important that you want to change. I have been known to deny clients because my mother told me to do this, my sister told me to do this, my wife told me to do this. That's not how you come into hypnosis. Hypnosis is like coaching. I'm the coach, you are the player, you're doing it all. If you're doing it because you're being forced to do it, it's not going to work. And I don't care what you saw on TV, what you saw some guy do on stage, that's all baloney. This is clinical hypnosis, and you have to want to do it. So renewedlifehypnosis.com. And then the other coming soon, if you'd be interested in attending one of the talks, is the power of, that website is willtalks.org. That's a nonprofit. So that's out there now. We're working through everything else, getting all the speakers lined up for the inaugural session. But either one of those things, reach out to me. And if you just want to talk, if you want to learn more about hypnosis, let me know.
I will put all those links in the show notes. What a wonderful, illuminating look into your world. Bill, thank you, sir. Thank you for taking the
Thank you, Joe. You're awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.